We'll begin. Tonight is part one of a two-part series, but part two of having Ros at Spiritgrow. Recently, we were very lucky we had Ros launch her book here, Laughing at Cancer. And if you weren't here for the book launch, just get the book. If you were at the book launch, then you've got it. It is an exceptional read. I have read it, and I read it in just under 2 sittings. So it's a real easy read, but it's also a read that holds you. You don't really get bored. So it's a really good book, and we were very fortunate to have Ros launch it here. But tonight is about learning. Tonight and next week is about actually learning about what it is that Ros does and actually taking lessons into our own life. So it's very, very hard to introduce a best-selling author. I used to be able to...
futurist by the sounds of things.
I used to be able to say, Ros, now I've got to be very, very careful. Like, is my content going to stack up? So I was thinking about what it is that Ros does, and I was thinking about what it is that we're going to be exploring tonight. And there are 2 different ways in which people look at the world. There's one way which is that we look at the externalities and we say someone is so out of line that their external self is not aligned with their internal self, and they are inconsistent and they're hypocritical, blah, blah, blah. And then you get the other way, which is, oh, look at them from the inside and how it comes out. And we almost seek to master our inside in order to better our life on the outside. It's a very normal thing. It's like, I don't want to be inconsistent, and therefore I will work on something deep inside, and hopefully that will create change around me, or that will create change on me. But actually, and if you were in the previous session at the meditation, often we take the opposite order. Work on something that's on the outside, and you can begin to change what's going on the inside. And there's this very simple meditation process called the relaxation response, which is where if you put your physical posture, if you put your body in a position of being relaxed, it will begin to relax. So if you slow your breathing down and you loosen your muscles, your brain is going to say, no fight or flight here, all is good, I am going to relax. Now, there is some spirituality into this, and I'd like to just go there for a moment. If you think about it, what are you? What are any of us? We are all souls, as in we are this raw energy that is within each one of us, and it releases itself and it interacts with the world, and it comes out via what's called the levushim, via the garments that we wear. So let me give you an example. Everyone in this room is dressed, which is a good thing because I can work with that. I mean, if you weren't, I'd work with it as well. But this is better. This makes for less scandalous content. So everyone here, almost everyone, would have made a conscious decision when getting dressed. They would have said, oh, it's cold, I'm going to put on something that's warm. But you didn't just slap on anything, because if you slap on anything, you're going to look like you just slapped on whatever clothing, and everyone's going to look at you. You're a schlump. You're so untidy. You're so unput together. So you made sure there was some sort of color coordination. You didn't put on the tattered sneakers, even though they're the most comfortable. You put on something that's slightly less comfortable, but it gives you a bit more confidence. So some people wear leather-soled shoes, or people wear high heels. These give people poise, and that poise changes the way they feel. Or they may have put on a jacket or a scarf. Even men do this. We live in a very metrosexual society today. So, you all dress and you go, just needs one more accessory. I'm going to put on a scarf. I'm going to just put something else on. Why? Because now it's about the image. And once you've put that on, you feel, now I'm put together. This is called a lavush. This is called a garment. And the garment is very important because the garment is what we use to speak, even without words. Words are called a lavush. Words are garments. It's a way of placing your soul into this external thing that can be given over. Our clothing is an external thing. It's not a part of us. It doesn't grow with us. It's not a part of our body, and yet it speaks for us. It speaks so much, whether we intend it to or not. And so our levushim tell people about us. But our levushim, our garments, actually also talk to us. When you put on comfy clothes, you feel undisciplined. You will generally feel more relaxed. You will generally feel more unstructured. When you put on a smart outfit, and if there's pressure around the waist, so if a man tucks himself in, or if a woman tucks herself in, and there is pressure and there's a belt, there's going to be actually a heightened state of formality. The more tightness around different parts of the body, the up it goes, and we actually put ourselves into a posture of formality and properness, and there's this greater poise about us. And so you'll say, like, what's changed? All that's changed is the outfit and the way it sits on us. And yet, it seems that the outside is actually informing what's going on the inside. And you feel more confident, so you present better. You feel more confident, so you feel better about yourself, etc., etc. My sister is a makeup artist in Israel. She actually started her own makeup company. And the purpose of the makeup company is actually to help women, because in Israel, there's a very high level of working class women. And in Israel, many working class women have to drive considerably more than we do in Melbourne to get to jobs. And with all the other chaos of working a 6-day week, which is what the week is in Israel, so there's only Shabbat, it's the only day off, it's just slightly more chaotic. There's more going on for some reason in Israel, and therefore many women don't put on makeup. And as a result, they feel something. And so she designed a makeup line which would actually help women do themselves up quickly in the car, by a woman knowing exactly what colours work for them and what colours don't, and then having the right makeup components so that it's quick and easily applied without a makeup artist and without a lot of time. It fits the Israeli standard. If you want, you can check her out on Facebook. It's called Devora. And what's her name? Devora. Anyway, and she runs many workshops, and it's a whole line. So it's a fascinating idea, because she says one of the issues in Israel is that women haven't got that full sense of confidence because they are lacking in something that they feel they should have, which is makeup. If a woman feels she doesn't need makeup, then she's not going to feel she's lacking. But she says in Israel many women do. And so what we see is this external influence, and that is because of the idea of levush. Tonight, and one of the first things that I learned from Ros in one of her first workshops here, is we're going to learn about this, particularly in how it emotionally impacts us, and what we can do to shift our emotions, and what we can do to shift our personal psychology and the way we think. And so there is no better person who has done this herself, not just because she likes to laugh, but because she's a person that chose to live as opposed to not live. And so this is a person who is, I would say, mastering the externalities in order to inform the internalities. And with that, I'd like to welcome Ros Ben-Moshe.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Menachem. I'd actually add a accessory to what you were talking about, is wearing a smile. And that's what and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and it's really sort of feeling into those the smile, and we're going to be exploring that. Right. So, thank you all for coming tonight. I know it's winter and it gets dark and couches are comfortable. So, tonight we're going to be, as I say, we're going to be focusing on the idea of inner smile. And it's not just because it's a nice, warm, fuzzy thing. It actually is a really fundamentally important thing to our health and well-being. And we're going to explain that through first identifying your own endorphin boosters. We're going to be looking at concepts like practicing gratitude, being compassionate, and how to, it's 2 3s, how to adopt a smiling mindset. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to spend a little bit of time talking about endorphins, because Endorphins are seriously amazing. And I don't know how much you know about the concept of endorphins, but I'm just sort of, the more I learn, the more I realise how incredibly powerful they are in terms of our own well-being. So endorphins are endogenous morphine. So that is actually internally manufactured in our bodies. And it's 30 times more powerful than its synthetic version. So if anybody, for example, has had an operation, on the drip, you get the morphine thing. Well, can you imagine? We've got this inner resource ourselves. It's about triggering it. And it's so easy to do. So the idea is really the more endorphins you elicit on a daily basis, the greater vitality you're going to have, the greater energy, more fulfillment and life satisfaction. And it's not just talking about your emotional health, it's also talking about your physical health. The amazing thing about endorphins is, and this was something that I only just really recently realised, they're not, I don't know why, I just sort of had it in my head that they were just from your head, that they were in your mind, that they were, a chemical in your brain, but they actually flow throughout your whole body. There are about 20 different types of endorphins. They're part of the neuropeptide family. And they're circulating throughout our central nervous system. They're flowing through us all the time. And that is really an amazing resource for us. And we're going to just have a little bit more of a look as to why that would be such a good thing. Okay. So, here are some of the physiological functions that are affected by endorphins. So we've got central nervous system, pain modulation, gastrointestinal physiology, cardiovascular regulation, temperature regulation, control of food consumption and taste preference, respiration, immunological processes, childbirth, and there are more. Okay? So these are directly affected by endorphins. And then there's another layer, which are the indirect impact of the endorphins. So on our stress, spontaneous behaviour, learning and memory, motivation, and psychiatric disorders. Now, the thing about endorphins is, who here has sort of heard, about endorphins? Yeah. Okay, so maybe you already know all of this. I don't know, but I didn't realise that they were as sort of expansive in their sort of, I suppose, impact on our well-being. Essentially, their general effect, okay, is to relax tissue so that all of the antibodies can travel into the affected areas of pain or distress. And endorphins enhance the immune system by activating the natural killer cells, which is really important in terms of destroying any defective cells or cancer cells. And they also maintain flexibility of blood vessels. So that's really important in terms of the cardiovascular aspect, in terms of ongoing, support, for the flow into all tissue. So endorphins, as I say, they sort of go beyond the sort of warm, fuzzy feeling. We sort of talk about endorphins being the happy high, but it's actually so much deeper. I'm going to keep that because I don't want you to see the moral yet. So essentially, there's this idea we're going to be going through a process shortly for you to identify your own endorphin triggers, because what's going to work for someone is not going to work for someone else. So for example, if I say something like, I don't know, chocolate mousse, some people's endorphins are going to be going, yum, chocolate mousse, and the others are going to be saying, oh, but I'm lactose intolerant. Oh, I got a cramp last time, So there are different endorphin triggers for different people. But I just want to tell you a tale. It's this old sort of Zen type of tale about this man who was walking through the jungle, minding his own business, and then out of nowhere, along came a tiger and started to chase him. So, of course, he started running. And he sort of was, just not, when you're being chased by a tiger, you're not necessarily looking where you're going, and he's just sort of panicking, ends up stumbling over a cliff top, okay? He grabs onto this little bush, to support him, and he's sort of looking down, and below is this sort of, thunderous, waterfall, and he's realised actually he's fallen quite a way. It's far too far for him to actually climb up to the top of the cliff. So he's really got his life flashing, before his own eyes, and sure, the tiger's not going to get him, but that precipice is going to get him very, very shortly. And as he's sort of there, then there sort of comes this sort of, I don't know, it's like a wild bush rat or something like that, and it starts gnawing at this bush. So it's like things just couldn't get worse for this poor guy. And essentially, as this bush is sort of getting weaker and weaker, and the precipice is looking as though it's going to engulf him at any moment, he happens to notice there's a strawberry plant, okay, just within reach, and this beautiful red glistening strawberry is there for the picking. And he thinks, is there any point in me even taking it? I'm going to die momentarily. And what do you reckon? Do you think he did? So the idea from this is, the moral is, I don't think it was a particularly happy ending. He did have his strawberry, but no matter how terrible a situation is, okay, there will always be a strawberry, okay? There's always something there that you can connect to, with the wonder and beauty of life. It's just, so we're all, it's even in our daily lives, it's like, do we reach out and pick that strawberry, or do we think, no, I don't think I will, or, it's like, great, why should we be denying ourselves these pleasures and this? So that's the moral of the strawberry. So what we're now going to do is, I am going to get David, AV/support person. Pardon? You got a new title. I'd like to go through a process now. David, is it possible to just distribute the clipboards with a piece of paper and a pen to people? That would be fantastic. And I'll tell you what we're going to be doing. As I said, everybody has different endorphin triggers. And connecting to these endorphin triggers actually really does connect us to vitality and sense of well-being. The criterion of an endorphin trigger is really something that makes you feel good about life, opens your heart, or really brings you pleasure. It actually, makes you smile at some level. And essentially, there are 6 different types of endorphin triggers. So there's people, places, activities, peak experiences, or religious or spiritual figures or symbols, textures, scents, sounds, tastes, and colours. So on this clipboard that you are getting with this piece of paper that is, thank you for all of the volunteers, if you can turn the paper this way, if you turn the paper this way and then you just divide it up into 6 different categories, okay? So you place at the top of each of the categories, people, places, activities, etc. Now, the criterion for these things, as I say, it really has to make you, it really needs to open your heart, make you feel good about life. Now, some people have said, well, there's nobody at the moment that really makes me feel great. They don't even have to be people that you necessarily know. There could be a particular role model or something that makes you feel good. Again, with places, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a place that you are familiar with. It could be this beautiful villa in Tuscany that you have seen in a magazine. And actually, what I would actually encourage you to do is, if you need another pen, if they don't work. Oh, it does. What I would really encourage you to do is, with the idea of this list is, we can't do it now, but if you sort of take it back, to your home, and then you make this list quite visually captivating and stimulating. So you could actually go home, for example, if as I say, if you did have that villa, Tuscan villa, you could even cut it out and put it in your column. Or, any activity, if you love water skiing or, now, you shouldn't feel obligated to write anything. So say, for example, with religious or spiritual figures or symbols, you don't sort of put anything that you feel you should put down. Actually do it when you go into that feeling space, because it opens your heart and it makes you feel good about life. The idea about textures, scents, sounds, tastes and colours is, say, for example, you really love the colour pink, okay? But in your house, you've just got white walls everywhere. Like, in theory, you could have a pink feature wall sort of thing. So the idea is that, if that makes you feel really good about things. So, textures, this is all about a different kinesthetic feeling where you're really sensing into the different textures, scents, sounds, tastes and colours. They really can trigger an emotional response. So what I'll do is I'll just leave you just for a few moments just to think about this. And also some of the things that you're going to think about, they might be things that are going to be on a daily basis. Some of them are just going to be on an occasional basis. Some of them may just have a totally immediate effect, whereas some of you might need to sort of sit with it a bit longer. Any questions? Okay. It's all about you. These are your endorphin triggers. If you have finished, you might want to sort of just sense into some of those things, just sort of add some sort of more description or colours, actually use some of these textures, scents, sounds, tastes and colours to add to the experience of the other things, to enrich them. Yes? Yes. What do you mean by that? Could be like a graduation or the big moments in life. Okay, so if you haven't finished, I really recommend that you take this back home, really sit with it. Say you can write on it in a bigger, piece of paper, an A3. You can actually cut things out. You can have photos of people. It's like people have, the vision board. This is like an endorphin board. And the idea really is to not be casual about these things that actually give you pleasure, because they are a real pathway to your energy and vitality. And the idea really is it's on a regular basis. I've got this cupboard workstation that's that's where I sort of write and everything. But on like my door, I actually have things that, if I'm sort of, I don't know, just need a break, I'll just sort of gaze at them. And that's sort of, for me, if I have sort of, some of my endorphin triggers there, I will know that every day that I'll actually look at them. But it's not just about looking and just sort of saying, oh, yeah, no, that was really good, It's actually about pausing and absorbing. That is a really critical part to getting the most out of your endorphin triggers. You actually sit with the feeling. Let it soak in, absorb it. And it's amazing that the more you do that, you're actually changing the way that your brain thinks. You're bringing a conscious level of awareness to these things that make you feel good, that things that bring you that inner smile. So even if hopefully, we haven't got a situation where people have put different their own endorphin triggers into these categories, and then they reflect and think, actually, I don't know how many of these I really do. The idea is that we can change that very simply. So say, for example, under activities you have got, I don't know, that you like going to art galleries, but you haven't really had that many opportunities to go for various reasons. But say, for example, you plan a day trip where you know that there is an art gallery. So you actually you're bringing some of your endorphins, pleasing things, making a point of integrating them into your daily life. Or with people, again, some of the people that are on your list might be people that you see every day, but others, they might be someone who lives overseas. So it might even just be the thought that, in 2 years' time, you're going to plan a visit to meet this person that when you're with them is really going to warm your heart. With these categories, when you were actually sensing into these things, or maybe just even now, might sound a bit of a strange question, but where in your body did you feel that sort of warm feeling or that feel-good feeling? Like in your head, in your heart, in your gut, yeah, in your chest, in your heart, yeah. Where else? In your gut, yes, gut, your whole body, in your head. So it's a really interesting thing to think about, and that's where the pausing is really important. You actually can take a moment and think, how does this make me feel? It's like, is it in your gut, in your heart, in your head? And if anybody here has had the pleasure of hearing Marvin Oka, who's spoken at Spiritgrow before, he talks a lot about the head, the heart, the gut connection. And I'm always interested in asking people that question, and generally speaking, people find that yes, it's in their head, their heart, their gut, and some people feel it in their whole body. And I think, if you can try and get that whole of body feeling, that is pretty amazing, because that's something we're going to be concluding with. That's really like, you're embodying it's like a physical sort of embodiment of these endorphins that are sort of flowing from within. So with your list, add to it, make it look great, put it somewhere visible as a trigger. The more you do this, the probably less reliant you will need to be on this list, because it's going to bring a conscious level of awareness to these things. But I really encourage you to do it. It's a really powerful and very, very simple exercise, I think. So as I say, don't be casual about it. They really are gateways to your health and fulfillment. Any questions before we move on to conscious gratitude? The reason why I've put gratitude in part of this sort of inner smile, awakening your smile, is being grateful is for me, I sort of feel it's such a heartwarming concept. It's like, I genuinely am so grateful that you are all here tonight. That really makes me happy, And I think, again, it's a situation of what you place your attention on grows. So what you focus on grows. If you're focusing on everything that you're grateful for, you've forgotten everything that you're grumbling about, all of the things that, just aren't working well. Because you can't feel two opposing emotions at the same time. It's physically impossible. You can't feel happy when you feel sad. It's like you can't, when you're smiling and really into that feeling, you're into that really feeling of smiling. You're not thinking about the stresses. So being consciously grateful and is in a way, it's a gift. I mean, it's sort of obvious. It's like we get taught when we were kids to sort of say thank you, but I don't know if we really sit with this concept of really being grateful and thankful. And it is such a powerful thing. When I was recovering from bowel surgeries, it was certainly something that probably I wasn't very conscious about. However, quite early on, I realised that it was a really important tool in my own recovery, because I think that when anybody's going through any kind of adversity, not necessarily health, any serious, significant life challenge, the first thing is, naturally, you think about everything that's going wrong. Why can't it be any different, you know? But just, it's like this switch. If you start to just somehow seep in some of these things that you're grateful for, and they can, and some of you have heard me say this before, they can be really micro moments of joy or micro moments of gratitude. It might not necessarily mean that, that everything is absolutely fine and dandy, but there are small things that you can focus on that are really quite good. It can even be just a small thing, like that you've had a lovely conversation with a friend, or that you've discovered a new cafe, or that you had a beautiful day in the sunshine, or whatever it is. It's about being grateful for all of those things. Not just, as I say, just being casual about it, but being grateful. And the one exercise that I really, really recommend for people to do, and it's something that I do regularly. It was initially discussed by Professor Martin Seligman, who's sort of known as like the father of positive psychology, and it's essentially three good things, three things that went well in your day, and and it's a really powerful thing to do. Either you have a written sort of exercise book with all of the things that went well, and each day you will write down 3 things. Had a cup of tea with Andrea, or whatever it is, or your favourite show was on TV, whatever it is, these small things. So you can either write them down, or what I used to do when, particularly through that sort of healing phase, was I would just mentally think about things as I was sort of, on the cusp of sleep, and it was amazing. When I was thinking about those things that were going well, that I was grateful for, as I say, I wasn't going to sleep ruminating about all of the stress or the anxiety or whatever it was. So does anybody do that practice now? And have you found it to be a powerful...
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how has it affected you, if you don't mind me asking? Have you sort of found that as a result of this you have become more consciously grateful in your daily life?
You think about it and you write it down, especially every day.
Yes.
You write what I've been doing for the last year.
That's fantastic.
And I love it.
It's
As
really,
you said,
yeah.
small thing,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it is. And you feel so grateful about it.
Yes. And the more that you do that, the more that you actually find reason to be grateful. It's a really, as I say, it's things I'm talking about, it's not rocket science. I mean, I can include the physiology and all of that sort of stuff, but it's really not. It's, as I say, it's going back to basics. It's, things like being grateful. So it is not happy people who are thankful, it is thankful people who are happy. I think there is a lot of truth in that. So, fine, looking at the time. Right. Anyone like to add anything else about gratitude? Yes, Sandy.
By keeping there are 3 things I write every night. So one is, what was the best thing that happened today? What are you grateful for today? And what are you excited about tomorrow? And sometimes, the day maybe wasn't that great. You sort of think it wasn't a great day, but then you're forced to look for the positive. And so every day you've got to find positive, and it's a really powerful tool.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you want to repeat that? Because maybe people want to write that down. They're great questions.
The best thing that happened today, what are you grateful for today, and what are you excited about tomorrow?
Yes. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. We're going to move on to compassion. And again, you might sort of think, well, how's this really got to do with, inner smile? I don't know about you, but I think that when you are feeling compassionate about somebody, it's like the ice melts, It's such a beautiful thing to have compassion for others, But I don't just mean about for others. It's really important to have compassion for yourself. I think so often our inner critic is very alive and well, but to be compassionate about ourselves and to be kind on ourselves is really important. And one of the things about being compassionate, and as I say, it's sort of that link again to that inner smile, is it sort of brings a real softness. It's like if you were feeling sort of, you start to judge a particular situation or some person, harshly, or yourself harshly, if you can actually just sort of stop and just sort of sit with that and sort of soften your eyes, it actually changes the way that you feel. I know that might sound strange, but it's a really powerful tool. I spend quite a lot of time working with nurses, and I find that they are the most extraordinarily compassionate people, as a if you were to generalise. But I feel I sort of find working with them, they are really at risk of compassion fatigue or browning out. I might just talk about that for a moment. If you are a giving person, it's a fantastic thing, obviously, if you have compassion for others. But it's really important to actually, have compassion for yourself. There's this concept called brownout. Has anybody heard about brownout? It's a really quite a new thing, and I sort of discovered it about a year or so ago, and I'm quite excited about it. Essentially, it is a term that has been borrowed from the electricity industry, and it describes, when a light globe just sort of fizzles before it dies. That's what's called a brownout phase. Or a star before it dies, that's called the brownout phase. And what they've found is that, and it's quite staggering, and as I say, working with nurses, I think the percentage may even be higher, but up to 40% of people in workplaces have basically meet the criterion for brownout. Now, brownout sort of symptoms are sort of feeling disengaged, frustrated, you've lost your sense of humour, you're looking for excuses to, not be there, you're not as, you're just not enjoying sort of being with the colleagues, you're not as engaged. And it's really staggering how many people, I've got this sort of criterion, and it's really scary, you tick the box, and it's like so many people at various stages have gone through brownout, but it's very much under the radar. Because in our society, we tend to sort of, when people are totally burnt out and they, that's so much more obvious, and there are services, but there's not necessarily, yes.
Isn't a good break going to fix a brownout?
Pardon?
A good break.
Yes.
Holiday.
Yeah, absolutely, a break, but not everybody can take a break, and that's the thing. But absolutely, a holiday is a fabulous panacea for a range of ills. But the thing about the brownout in terms of compassion is actually, or any of the things we're talking about, is the more that you can integrate things like, your endorphin triggers, or have compassion for yourself, just acknowledging, like, this is actually a really challenging time for me at the moment, but it happens, people have gone through worse, and, it will resolve, that sort of compassionate talk is actually really important for our well-being and helps build us up and gets us out of that sort of brownout phase. Has anybody here done? Menachem, you must do the compassion mindfulness practices. There's people here. Yeah. So people have done like a self-compassion break before. Okay.
Looks like we better do it again.
I think we might. Okay. So essentially, it's a really important thing, as I say. I think we're really good at being compassionate for other people. We see, the picture of some, person, a child that's really hungry, and, your heart goes out to them. But, we don't necessarily have the same voice for ourselves. So perhaps we will just have a very short self-compassion break. Something that, if you haven't done it before, it's quite powerful. So if I can just invite you to close your eyes. And I'd like you to think about something that is a bit of a challenge for you at the moment. I don't want you to call up anything too big, but I'd just like you to call up some sort of, as I say, something that you're challenging with. A challenging situation. And then I'd like you just in your head to just acknowledge it to yourself that this is a challenging moment for me. This is a moment of suffering. But I know it'll pass, and I'd like you to sort of think about something that you can say to yourself in this moment that's going to reassure you. And I'd like you to also acknowledge that challenges are a part of the human condition. They are things that at the time, you might not be able to see that there may be any sort of growth opportunity from it or that good can come out of it, but challenges come and challenges go. And I'd just like you in this moment to be kind to yourself. Think about something that you can say or even just sort of put your hand on, your heart or just offer yourself some reassurance and to be kind and compassionate. So you're doing the best that you can. And sometimes it's difficult for us to offer those kind words about ourselves. So in some cases, you might even want to pretend that you're your own best friend. And think about what this best friend might tell you in this given situation. And just say to yourself, whatever it is that's going to reassure you and make you feel better about this situation, and know that you're doing the best that you possibly can. This is a moment of self-compassion. And when you're ready, if you just open your eyes, and it's not something I think that we're accustomed to doing, to sort of, it's really like a pat on the back. It's a pat on the back, but it's really going into yourself, and it's offering yourself that compassion that you deserve, that you probably, as I say, you'd quite easily give it to your best friend or a loved one, but would you, do you actually go through the same motions for yourself? So that's, how did people find that sort of process? It's actually a really, really valuable thing to do if you are going through a tough time. Just take 2 or 3 minutes just to offer yourself some self-compassion. As I say, it's like just a way of patting yourself on the back that, just doing the best that you can. It is a challenging time. Right, now, where I suppose we embody some of those endorphin triggers that you were sort of noting before. So the idea is, and some of you have done this inner smile meditation practice before, but in the list that I got you to write before, where you were identifying your own endorphin triggers, as I say, it's about pausing and absorbing. And it's really sensing into those and the feelings that they bring up. So, as I say, feeling good about life or, opening up your heart. And this is, I suppose, a different way of actually just through the smile. So we're not necessarily working with those triggers, but just through the smile, experimenting with really embodying these endorphins. So I know we've just done the self-compassion break, which I wasn't planning to do, but I think it was good that we did. We're actually going to now do another mindfulness practice. Hopefully we won't fall asleep. But even if you do, you'll fall asleep with a smile on your face. So if I can just please invite you once again, either to close your eyes or just to sort of fix your gaze somewhere nondescript. And we're really going to, the point about this evening session is really to connect us to our inner smile. So we're really going to just spend some time sensing into that. And we're just going to start with a gentle relaxation process. So as I say, if you comfortable, close your eyes. If not, and make yourself as comfortable as you can in these chairs, or you can visualise being in the beanbags in the meditation room next door. That's the thing about visualisation, actually. The amazing thing is that your non-conscious mind can't tell the difference between real and imagined if you're really sensing into it, which is why those endorphin triggers and that visualisation process is so important. So, if you just connect with your breath, inhaling, you feel the cooler air as you inhale and the warmer air as you exhale. Trying wherever possible to make your exhalation slightly longer than your inhalation. Breathing in and then out. Once more in and then out. I'd like you to imagine a gentle wave of relaxation is going to pass throughout your whole body. And this gentle wave of relaxation may have a shape or a colour. And it's going to start at the crown of your head, releasing and relaxing as it passes down through your eyes and your cheeks, your lips, chin. As it passes down through your shoulders and your upper and your lower arms. And take another couple of nice deep breaths in and then out. Once more in and then out. As this gentle wave of relaxation passes back up through your arms and down through your chest and your abdomen, releasing and relaxing any muscle tension. As it passes down through your upper legs, and the lower legs, and finally out through the soles of your feet. By now you should be feeling a little bit more relaxed. And I'm now going to ask you to place a smile on your face. It might help you to think of a time in your life where you were unconditionally loved, or that everything was going well. Or you might think about one of those things that you wrote in your list of endorphins, that things that trigger your endorphins. And really, just sit with this smile and note how it makes you feel. How do your eyes feel? How do your cheeks feel? How do your lips feel with this smile? And what feelings come up when you have this smile? Is it life-affirming or love or joy? And just sit with this smile and notice how your body is feeling with this heartfelt smile. And I'd like you now to really breathe this smile more deeply into the core of your being. So you're inhaling the smile, and then as you exhale, you're sharing the smile throughout your whole body. So that every cell, every tissue, every fibre, every muscle in your body is smiling back at you. Your endorphins are flowing. You're connected to your vitality. Just through this smile, you're rewiring your brain. You're creating neural pathways of joy, of calm, and awareness. You are embodying a smile and all of those feelings that represents to you. So just sit with this smile and know that at any time of day, no matter how challenging the internal or external circumstances may be, just by placing a smile on your face, you're changing your physiology. Sitting with this smile, breathing it in and sharing it around your whole body. The more that you smile, the more that you choose to smile, the more you will find reason to smile. The more that you smile, the more others will smile back at you. And when you're ready, if you just open your eyes. And that was about 5-6 minutes. Did anybody sort of feel anything from sensing into the smile? It's a really powerful thing. As I say, even if it's the last thing in the world that you feel like doing, just by placing a heartfelt smile, not a Pan Am, smile or a, smile. A really heartfelt sensing into those endorphins, sensing into the things that actually bring you pleasure, make you filled with love. That is what's going to really put you in great stead, really, for enhanced life satisfaction, life fulfillment, and it's a wonderful. It's such a simple thing. I mean, really, I think we all know how simple it is. So we're sort of going to wrap up now. I'd just like to open the floor if there are any comments or questions. Okay. So as you know, this is part one of the series. Next week we're actually going to be looking at how laughter, we can use laughter to help us deal with adversity. They sort of say that pain plus time, then you can laugh. And it's a very, very powerful thing. But it's not just laughter in the ha-ha sense. It's actually, thinking about reframing things in a more light-hearted way. It's funny, laughter, I mean, if I was to sort of think about the root of laughter, the way that it makes me feel and the way that I know that it makes other people feel that I work with, I would sort of think that it comes from like the root light. Because, you know, when you laugh, it's like this lightness. It doesn't, does it, Menachem? But in theory, it'd be, you know, it's like, it's an amazing tool. We're going to be, as I say, not just, we're going to be doing some laughter exercises, but we're also going to be thinking about ways that we can all bring more laughter into our lives. And the aim is, again, it's about really trying to rewire our brain positive, really sort of get those neural pathways of joy and calm and, you know, really much stronger, bringing a conscious level of awareness to that. So from today's lecture, I you know, just really hope that as a result, you're going to think more about things that, you know, give you pleasure and you know, not in a narcissistic way, you know, in a genuinely heartfelt way, you know, thinking about people, places, activities, peak experiences, having something, you know, visual, sensing into them, pausing and absorbing. And the more that you do, it really can change your life. Now, for those who weren't at my book launch, I have to do a plug. I do have some books for sale. The idea about the book, Laughing at Cancer, How to Heal with Love, Laughter and Mindfulness is, it is my journey throughout. However, in a way, it's very much in brackets because really the idea for my writing the book is for my journey to be your catalyst to healing. So at the end of each chapter, I've got opportunities for reader engagement, healing strategies, techniques, some of the things we were talking about tonight. I don't know if anybody here who's read it would like to share a word. Oh, okay.
Absolutely amazing book to read. It's a quick read, as Menachem said, and
So quick to write, jeez.
everybody will find at least one thing to connect with personally. It speaks to you on so many levels, and it's very stimulating reading, and it's a must read. It's a must read.
I'll pay you later. Yes, please,
I
Lana.
just found after reading that book, things keep resonating. So every day, something else is coming back to me, you know, and it's really great to have somebody to discuss it with as well. So it's good to got another memory.
Thank you.
Opens it up for discussion.
Well, that's the idea. I do want to challenge things. So, for example, today I've got an article which I'm pretty pleased about in the Huffington Post, and it's basically it comes from one of the chapters. It's like, you know, why can't it be the little c instead? And the idea about if you're sort of saying that somebody has a bowel cancer or prostate cancer as opposed to they have cancer, it's far much more empowering. You know, in terms of you're allowing the rest of the body that is healthy to be well, and you're focusing on the small part of the body that that isn't. So there's the idea is really to empower people's own healing. So thank you. And if you are interested, June is actually Bowel Cancer Awareness Month, and I have been raising money to support Bowel Cancer Australia because they actually do some amazing work. So if you are interested, I am selling ribbons, but you don't have to have a ribbon. You can just donate. And I actually am donating a proportion of all sales through the month of June of my book to Bowel Cancer Australia. And if you wanted to know, they're $24.95. And I've got this really cool thing that I put into my phone, which means I can accept credit cards, which is very exciting. And I can sign them with absolute pleasure. But yes, so the idea is, as I say, hopefully it is my story, but the idea is there should be, universal messages, all being well, to empower and promote other people's healing, not necessarily just through illness, but, through any form of adversity or challenge. So I really appreciate you coming here tonight, and thank you so much.